Hey man, sorry, I'm a minute late.
A minute late? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
already not impressed.
Dude, this isn't your show, is it?
No, but if this was one of my courses, you'd be doing burpees. All
What kind
right.
of burpees?
Uh, the real burpees where you actually don't like do the electric boogaloo glowworm on the floor, but you actually have to go down, hold a position, and then jump back up. I was just in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago. I gave a girl 75 burpees. I counted every one. She started to cry, but she was 40 minutes late. So I
Wow.
figure, yeah, if you're 40 minutes late, you deserve to lose the right to use your legs for the rest of the morning. And,
Was
so
it, did you discover it? Did you ask if it was emergency or you just slept in or you're just like a mean son of a bitch? What's the background?
no, listen, I came from the other side of the world and I was on time. So she didn't come in with a bullet wound. She
Right.
wasn't on fire, and she
Right.
wasn't crying when she walked in. So I took that to mean there wasn't any significant emergency that would justify the 40 minutes. So I gave her the burpees, and then after, Sarah told me, "You made that girl cry." So I told her I didn't make her cry. I didn't make her do anything. She chose to cry,
Right.
just like she chose to be late for a class.
Dude, I want to end our podcast there because I can't imagine it gets any better than this.
It's not going to. I blew my wad in the first minute, and now I'm done. I'm out.
Right. I like how you work the word wad into the conversation.
I knew
Um,
that would make you happy.
while putting your mouth really close to that giant cylinder shaped microphone.
I knew the whole podcast would be a dick measuring contest, so I went out and purposely
And got a
bought
magnifying glass.
the biggest. Tony, you know what they say about tall guys and short guys, right? So
Right.
I know your people aren't going to have
This
a
will just be
visual.
audio, by the way. When
Yeah,
we release, it's just audio. So,
I know, but you know what I'm talking about. So
right.
it's fine. While
Yeah.
we sit here and sip our coffee, introduce me
Right.
properly, please.
Right.
Because you already showed up a minute late.
Right. The ladies and gentlemen, please meet Shawn Mozen, the founder of Agatsu.
Yeah, very good. Very nice.
Um, dude, so I don't do big formal intros. Tell people you're stuck in an elevator for 2 minutes with them. Tell them all about you.
All about me. So I am the president of Agatsu, as you mentioned, and I introduced kettlebells to Canada. And people ask me, what does that mean? Before I brought them here, started teaching, you basically couldn't find them. You couldn't find them in the country. You couldn't get trained. There were no instructor certifications. So I created the first instructional DVDs in Canada, the first workbook, and the first instructor cert. And there are people.
What year was this? This is a long time ago.
Is a long time ago, and like you, maybe there were a few jabs I should have slipped, and definitely one or two hooks that I remember that I for sure should have avoided. So I'm not so great with with timelines, but yeah, this is a while ago now, and yeah, so I started that off in Canada, and since then, my company has branched out. We give in continuing education courses for
Worldwide.
trainers around the world. And it's not just kettlebells. We do joint mobility, body weight training, Indian clubs, mace, all kinds of different things. So,
Yeah. We've known each other how many years? And here's another timeline question.
yeah, it's that's going back a very, very long time. But from when we actually met is a long time ago. But I actually, because we're from the same city, I heard your name, and because also we're both martial artists, I heard your name all through, my whatever, martial arts career at youth. Every time I was doing something, especially anything self-defense related, or I expressed any interest in self-defense, I always heard the same thing that became like this, running joke in my head was, "Hey, you ever heard of blower?"
Right.
Yeah, or I'd be teaching a class somewhere. "Hey, this is cool. You ever hear of blower?" Meaning, yeah, this is good, but hey, you ever hear a blower? And I remember telling a girlfriend, I was like, after a guy had just said that, "Hey, you ever hear a blower?" And I'm like, motherfucker, just once. You know anything I want out of this life? Because I want that guy blower to be having dinner, sitting around a table with a bunch of people, and for him to say something and someone go, "Oh yeah, that's cool. You ever hear of Mozen?" Like, say. So lie to me before the end of this and tell me, start now concocting the story in the back of your mind about, Shawn, I got to tell you honestly. That's how you started, by the way. The best way to start a lie is to tell someone, "I want to tell you honestly." right? Because that implies the rest of the time you're full of shit. But, I want to tell you honestly.
I'm making notes.
Tell me the whole story about how you were, at this thing, but make it sound really badass. Like it was this really cool thing. There were like 50 Navy SEALs, and that was amazing. And it was like behind closed doors. And this guy leaned over and he said, "Hey, Tony, what you're talking about is cool. You ever hear of Mozen?" Just like that. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. But anyways, just start thinking about it.
I will start concocting the lie. Honestly,
it's honestly, not a lie if I believe it. And
honestly, I'll work on the lie.
Yeah. Well, if you want to be a guru of any sort, you have to get your lying like really tight, really sharp.
There's so many things that we can talk about. And just for those of you who if this is your first time listening to Shawn and I, this banter, we've done it on, I'm a bit of an IT wizard, and we did it once at my house with my stop crying, Shawn, my Mevo Alive. But this is our banter. And has been for years. We've done some other talks together, but I knew I had to get Shawn on the No Fear podcast and introduce him to the newer audience who's discovering our stuff and my friends and stuff like that.
But Tony, everyone really needs to understand the depth of how sad that thing was when you tried. He had it's me.
I'm just gonna. You keep going. I'm just gonna edit this part out. But go ahead. Tell the whole fucking story.
No, Tony, you're not gonna edit this. This will be awesome. I should record it and I'll make sure it airs. So Tony got this thing and he's showing me around. I'm at his place and he's like, "Oh man, I got to show you this thing. You're going to love this. You got to get this. Do you have this?" And I was like, "What is it?" He was so excited. He was so excited. I was like, "My God, this is going to be an incredible thing. Maybe I do need to get this." And he takes up a little camera and he's like, "Look at this thing." And he's explaining what it does. And it's unbelievable. And it'll do this. And you can record that. And we got to do something. Let's go live. We want to record something. Let's broadcast. I'm like, "Sure, I'm game. Let's do it." And I'm so psyched. I'm like, okay, I'm at Blower's place. We're hanging out. We're going to record in the garage. This is going to be wicked. And I'm thinking about what we're going to talk about. And he cannot get it to work at all. We start talking. It's crashing. We're live. People are complaining. There's no audio. It's crackling. And Tony proceeds to cuss for like 30 minutes, just over and over again. It was
cuss. You used the word cuss.
Yeah, that's reasonably.
That's pretty lame. That's the whole story, man. I'm definitely cutting that out of this podcast. That's bullshit. Okay, you finished making fun of me?
For now, sure. Ask me a question.
Good. Okay, let's move on.
Right back around to that.
So, one of the things that you're really famous for, I can't think of anything.
And yet, I'm here. So that's a bit like a girl who makes fun of what you were like when she met you, but yet you're still together.
She met you, so, right?
Yeah, she met you.
Okay, but all seriousness, our evolution, our journey. You on the fitness side, me on the self-defense side. Even though, and Shawn is an accomplished martial artist, has been in martial arts most of his life, and you're still heavily studying jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started martial arts when I was 7. The first martial art I ever did was judo, and then I did traditional karate, like real traditional old school. When I was 13, I didn't line up fast enough, got 500 push-ups, and old school.
That explains the burpee penalty. But go on.
Yes, yeah, and
but have you ever heard of Blower?
You ever hear of Blower? I've studied a whole bunch of different martial arts, and I'm still went to jiu-jitsu this morning. That's the ritual. I'll wake up, go train jiu-jitsu at Gracie Barra in Montreal, and I'm also studying Kali, which I just Capoeira Doce Paris, which I just took up recently and within the last year. So yeah. So
lifelong learner, and I've watched you explore all the body move. I mean, I can remember when you were like just struggling and documenting online, some of the body weight exercises. I mean, even at my house, trying to hold handstands and stuff like that. And it's really evolved. It's crazy. And what I want to get in, I want you to share, you've been very vocal about, the whole quick fix mindset, and that the journey is the focus and not the destination, and you've got a very and people wouldn't know from this call, but you're kind of funny. And so you blend that sarcasm and that humor into a lot of your posts, but just talk, I guess, maybe share a little bit about that philosophy, because you're anti-guru, you're very focused on like, this is the work you need to do. And, but just take the mic and just rant on that a little.
Well, for me, everyone, especially nowadays, with social media can be great. Look, we're doing a podcast. That's awesome.
Right.
Hopefully it's going to reach a lot of people. Maybe we say something that inspires someone and maybe gives a little paradigm shift. You never know what you're going to say, what's going to influence someone and help them, provide them with some sort of reframing of the way that they were thinking, or solve some puzzle or some question they had or something. So it can be great. On the other hand, social media made it really easy for all of these gurus in whatever. I mean, you've got guys like back when you started, if you were going to end up in magazines talking about self-defense or anything to do with a martial art, it was hard. It wasn't that easy. Unless you were sitting on a pile of money and you could, no bullshit. If you could buy your way in, it's always been easy. You could buy your way to some fame. Everybody with money can do that. But if you were just like really like, some young guy starting out busting your ass in a gym somewhere, trying to share what you're figuring out and trying to make a name for yourself. If you ended up in a magazine, if you ended up giving seminars, and this is before, it may be hard for people listening, but think about it. No YouTube, no Instagram, no Facebook. Like imagine, take away all your social media and now go figure out how you're going to get people to find out about you. So that's like, Tony, that's how you started and that's how I started. I didn't have, I couldn't just post things or pay for ads or this nonsense. So, for me, that's what kind of makes this anti-guru kind of, vibe. I hate that people are just nowadays, it's like anybody with an Instagram account and a bit of a wallet can start getting attention for something that's nonsense. And what a lot of that is created is people look at these stunts, these moves, these whatever that people post, and they think, oh, that's the thing.
Right.
That's what I got to get. If I could only get that handstand, or if I could only get that flip, or if I could, but that misses the whole point of training. Training is not about this stunt, because I'll tell you, once you get that, whatever it is you're trying to get, you're just going to replace it with another goal. I mean, it's good to have goals that focuses training and moves it in a direction. But if you're just obsessing over these kind of things, you've missed the whole point. You forget that it's not the thing that's the thing. It's the things that you get from the thing. That's it. That's what it's all about. So, I mean, you can go in the garage and start hitting a heavy bag. You're probably not going to become a world champion boxer. That time has passed, sadly. Right. But it's still the stuff you're going to get out of going and throwing a few punches. That's why you do it, right? Someone can go, they can train jiu-jitsu every morning, every day. If they're smart, if they have some sense about them, if they know how to handle themselves, they're never going to use it. And that's great. That's a great thing they got out of jiu-jitsu, that they never had to use it. Amazing. Right. And they're going to get all these other great things from it without ever, having to actually go out and
but a lot of that is, I remember a maxim I throw around more these days than I used to in the past when I first heard this and memorized it. But the quote was, "There's no such thing as illegitimate children, only illegitimate parents." Mm-hmm. And that I remember reading that when my son Nicky, who's 26 now, he was like less than a year old, and I was just trying to figure out how to be a single dad. Mm-hmm. And I decided I'm not going to be an illegitimate parent. I'm going to freaking do what I can for this kid. And so what made me think about that now is while you were talking about all the quick fix and the thing is the thing inside the thing that you think you're going after and all that. But, and then you kind of extrapolated and went into, hey, like, for example, you could study jiu-jitsu and never use it. Yeah. And that for some reason that this parenting thought popped in my head, meaning you can sign up what's the Latin for buyer beware?
Caveat emptor rex.
Right. And so, everything looks so nice on the internet now, and everyone's got But you can go in and you don't realize that you've got the wannabe guru, the guy that wants to be the master, the guy that ego pride and all that shit behind him. And so you could go to the wrong jiu-jitsu school or movement school or self-defense school. And now we're like, Karate Kid remake, right? You're actually training a Cobra Kai. You don't have the self-awareness to understand that. And now you're being, emotionally poisoned by this shit. And I'm going to read something you wrote here. And this, of course, is like a kid-friendly show. So I'm going to edit this. But this is from one of Shawn's posts. One of the best ways to slow your technical progress is to put your training back I'm going to start again. And I'm going to edit that part out too, so people don't think I can't fucking read.
Brilliant.
One of the best ways, maybe if you wrote this a little bit better, it'd be easier to read.
No, the writing is perfect. It's the execution.
This is my show. Let me continue, please.
Go for it.
Shawn Mozen says, one of the best ways to slow your technical progress and put your training back several years is to randomly ask people on the internet for technique tips. It's like asking virgins how to fuck.
Wow, I said that. That's true.
It's actually one of my favorite quotes. I think you had that as a meme last year somewhere. Like this is now, so every dipshit with a computer and a spare time will offer you their 2 cents or more. Like whenever I read, I shared that with people, and whenever I read that, and me, I just posted something about self-defense where I wrote most of the people. My lead in line was most of the people teaching self-defense shouldn't.
Yeah, well, I saw that. That was because you reposted. It was that girl.
Right.
We won't say what magazine it's from, but it was a girl. Was hired by a magazine, and she gives like a self-defense.
Best self-defense tips for women.
Yeah, and it's horrible. And look, first, there's a few different things. Like one, look, when we're talking about like fitness gurus or something, I try not to like come on ever and bash a fitness guru. I bash the idea of a fitness guru, but I'm not going to talk shit about a guy who's teaching people how to do kettlebell swing differently than me. Honestly, fuck it. I mean, if somebody wants to go learn with him, go learn with him or go learn with her or whatever. And if it makes you happy, if they do a good job, great. If they end up not knowing what they do and they get you hurt, well, buyer beware. You should have done your homework, right? But when it comes to self-defense, I think people should call these people out online when it's total bullshit because, we're really talking about someone's putting their life in it. Like hopefully the people that are doing the bad techniques in a fitness thing, they could get injured, but I cringe at that, but I also cringe at the idea of, look, somebody really thinks they're going to be safe. And if somebody grabs them, and these people that have no clue are putting up videos like this. And in the case with the girl, I had heard after that, look, she's a really nice person and they just asked her to do it and blah, blah. And I thought, bull fucking shit. That is not an excuse. That's not an excuse. Listen, I'm not a brain surgeon, okay? I like to think I'm a nice guy, but I'm not a brain surgeon. If somebody says, Shawn, fuck, dude, you're here. The doctor's super busy. Could you just fucking operate on this guy? Like, you got balls, man. I'll hold the fucking tablet up. Let's Google this shit. I think you could do it. I don't kill him and then tell his family, oh, fuck, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm really like pretty competent physically, and I'm like a fairly smart guy. And I mean, we had a really good page on Google that we found. I thought I could see them, The family's not going to go, well, shit, he's a nice guy, and they just asked. So that's a bullshit excuse, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think that a big thing with people, and my karate teacher told me this when I was a little kid, and he's right. And it got worse over time. He said that people spend more time looking for a pair of shoes than they do for a teacher. And that is,
I never heard that. Yeah.
You will drive all over the place, man. You were like, oh, checking it out there. No shit. You know what? I'm going to go downtown. The traffic's a bitch. Fuck it. It's worth it. I'm going to go 3 hours. I'm going to check them out. Yeah, they got the ones I want. I don't know. I can have a better price. You go all over the place. You comes to a gym. It comes to a martial arts school. Comes to self-defense. Why'd you go there? Oh, it's right around the corner from my house. Oh, so that's the determining factor for, something that's going to save your life. The one around the corner is like a 3-minute drive. It's like, are they any good? Well, it's right around the corner from my house. Yeah, you said that. Are they any? I don't know. Wow.
Or people just they, you believe the accolades. I should have pulled it up. I didn't know we were going to talk about self-defense really, but I got this email from this guy who wants to affiliate with us. And he sent this in twice, and I got to pull it up and send it to you, and you'll die. But it's like he's a black belt in every single art in the world. I mean, there was pages of
as you are,
and I'm like going, oh my God, like, does he not realize like that if he had accomplished this, he would be like 6,000 years old.
Yeah. Well, maybe in his defense, Tony, maybe he is. Right.
I am casting aspersions and making assumptions at the same time.
It's true. You should be a little bit more open. You don't want to trigger anybody. Right? Who is 6,000? If you're 6,000 years old and you're listening, we both apologize, because I also snickered, which is
right. And if those skill sets were true, he could kill both of us. So we are apologizing.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't want to piss this guy off. He's
but let's go back to your line and talk about. Let's talk about that on the. Like this, what do you think? Why do you think why are people so unfocused and insecure that they're like randomly sending out like these emails and messages for like these technique tips or following this guy? Is it, what's going on with us?
I think there's a lot of different things. I think one, just the nature of the way the world is now, our attention spans kind of, like short circuiting. It's really bad. It's like everyone has ADD,
What are we talking about? Say that again. Sorry, repeat that.
See what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Everybody's attention span's gone to shit, and everyone's level of patience is very low, and their expectations are very high. Everyone thinks that things happen fast because, let's face it, in a lot of ways, things do happen fast because of technology. We can see each other right now. We don't have to wait. I can fly to LA. I can be there in a few hours. I can, so certain things move very quickly, but certain other things in life, no matter how much you want it to, no matter how much somebody sells you a hack, there's certain immutable laws that are going to make that just not so. And people who really train know that these things are bullshit. So if you really have spent time training, and if you spent your life training, when you see an ad for become the most devastating boxer in 3 months, take out pros in any gym, or jiu-jitsu black belt in 6 months, and right away, you're like, oh, what is that? Oh my God, what does that smell? Oh, there's bullshit all over my screen. Oh, it's horrible. Because you have the experience to know. And you also probably are the kind of person that wants to know. But a lot of people don't want. They want to believe the fantasy, and that's always been the case because they frankly don't want to work that hard. Why have there always been snake oil salesmen in physical culture? Because people want what they want without having to work for it. I mean, could you imagine an infomercial where I get up and I'm like, guys, hi, this is Shawn Mozen from Agatsu. I've got this incredible thing. If you do it and you train your ass off and you suffer and you're consistent and you sacrifice, you're going to end up making improvements slowly, like grains of sand. And it's going to be horrible. But over time, eventually, they are going to add up and you will reap the rewards. Nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to hear 6-minute abs. Screw that. I've got 10-second abs. Do this once a week. You'll have a 6-pack. Your wife won't leave you. They want to hear that crap. So part of it is the wanting. And the other part is, I think a lot of people don't know how to learn. It's not just what we're being taught. We don't even know how to approach learning. That's why I put the quote up, was because people say, oh no, I try to use the net, like there's so many great guys out there, girls out there that, have all these skills and, I want to pick their brains. You have the right idea. You have the wrong approach. Because when you post online, and you just say, oh, can you, how do you do this? Or how do you do that? What's the best way to do this? You have no clue who's answering you. You don't know. I said recently on another podcast, it's like you're walking around, imagine in a room, in a fairly decent sized room, like, a small gym, right? And there's 200 people shoulder to shoulder bumping around into each other, bouncing off each other. Now walk into the middle and, imagine it for self-defense. Walk into the middle, 250 people all bumping into each other. Guys, what's the best way to take a gun off a guy if he has it on my forehead? everyone starts yelling an answer. What you want to do is this. You want to drop down. You want to kick. You want to do a scissor kick. You want to do this. Oh, no, don't do a scissor kick. You want to do this. You want to, you know, and it's all nonsense. You don't even know who's giving you this advice. And then people are going to go off and they're going to train it and train it and train it and train it, only to find out, wow, I spent the last year and a half doing this horrible thing. And I finally met somebody who knows what they're doing, and they showed me why it's a horrible thing. And now I got to undo this habit I created.
It's funny. One of our maxims that we've been sharing for years: careful what you practice, you might get really good at the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And something I just discovered recently that was kind of interesting, and it was a big epiphany for me because I've been around a lot of people where I try to get them to kind of zero in on the simplicity of startle flinch conversion, of what the spear is about, that it's not a complex motor skill. It's not a technical thing. Don't confuse technical for tactical. And then a stimulus that gets introduced really quickly is going to, it's going to be picked up by your reptilian brain before your cognitive brain picks up on it, and that's the startle flinch. And if you used that energy when physiology and physics converge, you have this explosive response, this kinetic energy just pushing away danger. That's the organic airbag metaphor for the spear. And I'm explaining all this stuff, and people are like nodding their head. And then when they go to do the drills, this guy's doing a guillotine, this guy's posting with his hand, trying to do an uppercut, and everyone's doing like all this other little shit. And I'm stopping people because they're all experienced martial artists.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why aren't they listening? Why aren't they listening? And I was reading, I don't know if you've ever read or listened to The Talent Code. It's about 8 or 9 years old. But it's all on neuroscience. And I remember I'm such a dick because a bunch of people sent it, like referred me to it years ago saying you should read this. And I'm always like 9 books behind, or I'm in a phase where I'm not reading. And so I was like, yeah, thanks. And I finally dug into it about 6 months ago. And there's all this research on skill set development, but related from the neuroscience point of view, from the neuron myelin connection. And the myelin is like electrical tape that you would wrap around something to ensure the current is delivered with the right amount of integrity and maximal speed. Mm-hmm. And so the more myelinization you can do to a neuron, the faster the neuromuscular communication takes place. And I'm like reading this and I'm going, holy shit. And I realized in this, what I've been doing for decades in the way I've been training people on how to fight off balance on purpose, because we're off balance emotionally, psychologically, physically in a real fight, and how training on balance creates a hesitation and doubt in a real fight, because you now have to the abstractive part of your brain that's figuring out what, if you know A and C, you got to figure out B. That part of your brain that's improvising and adapting is struggling to figure the shit out. Where if you had done the off balance part in training, the transitions, the conversions are much faster. And so I'm listening to this book going, oh my God, this is what we do. And part of the science was they discovered that the more stress you can create, cognitive stress, on whether you're learning violin or math or soccer or any sport, that you create the fastest, deepest myelinization of the neuron. And I'm like, holy shit, this is what we do. And, but my epiphany was I suddenly realized that all of these experts who had been, because when people come to our training, our train the trainer courses, they've been doing martial arts for years.
Yeah.
And they're wrestling with what we would normally just say muscle memory. But what I was doing, I was going, why is he doing that? He's not fucking listening to me. I realized that the myelinization that occurred on his neurons happens at a subconscious level that these people didn't even realize they were doing it.
Yeah, he's trying to do what you said. He doesn't realize he's not doing what you said because he's hardwired now.
Right. He's literally hardwired to do something else. So this became even more the old, come full circle to the maxim that I share. Careful what you practice. You might get really good at the wrong thing. Has like neuroscience potency, not just like a philosophical side.
I know, and this is my mind too. It's like people that always say, like, I want this, whatever. They want to learn this. They want to, like calisthenics, gymnastics is really popular now. So people always say, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do this move. It's like, that's all great. But if you really want it and you want to do it in a certain way, look for people that are doing it the way that you want to do it, that are,
Right.
real experts, really capable. No
So
bull.
before you, let me interrupt you, because that was
Yeah.
one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, you gave the example, hey, go in the middle of a room and go, what should I do here? And you're going to get 250. So you were intuitively about to share that, like if you,
I'm a pro, Tony. I know how to bring the conversation all the way back where I want it, man.
but have you ever heard of Shawn Mozen?
That's right.
That is you who I'm talking to. So, so I was going to ask you guidance, tips, advice as a guru online.
Yeah, no.
What?
No. I'd rather you call me like 100,000 other bad things, but never bad.
As you also sell real estate off of a boat, don't you?
Only to you. I have a great deal for you after the podcast,
Okay,
but
excellent.
only for you. No, if somebody wants to find a teacher for whatever, like I used to tell people, well, I've always been very lucky in the teachers that I pick, but I realize it's not luck. I'm very careful. I will look for years before I get somebody. And look, I'm traveling around the world constantly. I could train with anyone for anything. It's not a big deal. I will eventually pass through that area. I could start training with them and fly back and forth and whatever. So when I find a teacher, whoever I'm training with, there's a very good reason I'm training with that person. It's because I think they're the best at what they do, and I've researched it and I've researched them.
But you said something important that I want to amplify, illuminate, and then let you expand on. Is you said something earlier that you would define somebody who's moving in a way that resonates with how you want to move.
Yes.
This is interesting. We talk about different body types, ectomorph, mesomorph. Like I can look at somebody's frame and go, that guy won't enjoy jiu-jitsu. It'd be good for him to do, but he should really box or kickbox or Thai box, because look at his legs or look at his frame or whatever. Mm-hmm. Styles make fights, but those styles, if you look at body types, you can go back. Right, you peel that onion back and you realize this guy's always going to be an infighter. This guy's a wrestler, grappler, and you can look at the mesomorph, ectomorph, and other social conditions and stuff like that. And there are outliers and anomalies, but I think the most potent thing, and I want you to expand on a little bit, is you can't just say, "I want to learn, kettlebell." What you need to do is also have the self-awareness to look at body type, teaching style, and methodology.
Well, like, for example, you let's say you're interested in kettlebell and you start looking at kettlebells. You're trying to figure out who you should learn from, where you should learn. Maybe you should go take a seminar or whatever. First thing you're going to realize is, holy crap, now there's, a gazillion different kettlebell certifications. When I started mine, there was, Pavel in the United States, there was a guy out of New York, and there was me. And that was it. Those were the only kettlebell certs that you could find anywhere in North America. And as far as I know, they were the only ones you could find anywhere. There weren't any that I had heard of really in Europe. And the Russians hadn't, figured out that they could make any money giving a kettlebell cert. So they were all busy doing other things, being Russian. Now you see all these different things. So you're inundated. So that's where you begin your homework. You do research. Okay. Who are the key players and why? And what are the differences? What are their philosophies? What are they doing? How do they move? What is, and then you start to see what resonates with you, like if I'm doing any kind of weightlifting, whether it's kettlebells or whatever. I was training in Russia. I was looking around the room. At one point they had 12 kettlebell world champions, right? All in the room. I'm looking around. They're all doing something different. They're all arguing with each other about what's the right way to do it, like the usual bullshit. So all I did was I looked around the room. I looked for the smallest guy lifting the same amount of weight as the biggest guys. That resonated with me because I'm smaller. So I always, in everything I did, from martial arts to anything, I have to be technical. And I want to be technical because I've seen the value of that over time. I'm not, at my size, I'm not bullying my way through anything. So whether it comes to jiu-jitsu or anything, I look for the technician. That's who I want to learn from. And that efficiency, first of all, it's never boring. I can spend a life peeling away one move because there's so much, and these guys know that. So that's who I go after. But it starts with doing your homework. It's like, who are the players? Right? Who does it could be parkour, it could be anything. You want to do parkour? Who are the top people in parkour? go find out about the history of parkour. Do some research, read about it, study about it. Once you figure out who the main people are, okay, who are the people that they've taught in my area? All right, now what are they teaching? How do they run a class? Like, this is going to be work. I'm sorry, but it's work. If
you're going to buy shoes, man, you got to do the homework.
You got to do the work, or as my kids learned in school when they were very little, you get what you get and you don't get upset. So don't come bitching to me, oh, I wasted 5 years of my life. Yeah, well, look, nothing is a waste because it's all information. It's all education. It got you to where you are now. But yeah, you did 5 years of messed up shit that's going to take you a long time to undo. If it took you 5 years to make the habit, I don't know. We could be looking at another 5 or maybe 10 or maybe 15 years to undo the habit. And that's your fault because you didn't take the beginning part.
And I would like to insert, what you're saying is absolutely true, but I would also like to insert, because I am a philosophical contrarian, and that is, it might also take you a minute to undo it.
Oh, 100%. You never know.
So,
but the thing is,
just for people listening to that going, oh, fuck. Like you can have your, I can tell you for years, wear a seatbelt. You go through the windshield once. Like,
well, that's what I call we call that an Agatsu, a self-correcting mistake.
Yeah.
So you have a, it's like you hit yourself with an Indian club or something.
Like the girl who is late will never be late to your seminar again.
Oh no! Not only that, but in the afternoon when people showed up, they were all on time. Like after lunch, they were all waiting on the floor for me. There's
something to the sacrificial lamb in a public way.
Yes, it's a powerful thing because then it lets everybody know, what the acceptable norms of behavior are, and what happens if you go outside of them, right? Like, I'm old school, man. I don't think you should be late when you're working. I don't think you do that. I think that's very rude to teacher. Any of my teachers, there's two things. One, I'm always on time, and two, I always do my homework. When my Kali teacher shows up and we start moving, and he's like, oh, because he's seen the stuff that he showed me last week and I'm doing it with some proficiency. He's like, oh, you practiced? Yes. Well, otherwise.
And he says it. And what's amazing is he says it with surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And he did at the beginning. I think he was rather shocked. He would show up and he is quite surprised that he said, you're learning very quickly. But I don't think it's necessary that I'm learning very quickly. Maybe it's relative to other people I'm learning quickly, but that's only because I actually do my homework. Like,
and no one else does. So that
few people do to that level, So yeah, it's about learning, to manage your expectations, not to imagine you're going to learn things quickly. And also, in a way, you kill the desire to learn it quickly. My desire isn't to learn something fast, even though, look, it's nice that I'm picking up Kali quickly. I mean, that's pleasant because I get to be exposed to more Kali. So great, right? But the goal is really just to do it because I feel it's improving the quality of how I move. And it's a super fun martial art to explore. So I'm having fun. Doing it is the thing in and of itself I'm getting out of it. Yes, and it improves the quality of all my movement. So that's great.
If more, I mean, like that concept that you shared it earlier and came back to it now is to me like the most important part of this talk so far is just if we can get back to, even as a businessman, I'm looking at 3 whiteboards in front of me that are just insanely filled with goals and tasks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And there's not a single part of me that wants to go through the journey to make it happen.
Yeah, of course.
Meaning if I can snap my fingers and have it. But I can say that in a self-deprecating way because I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years and been working my ass off and I'm working harder than I ever have now. In terms of commitment and integrity, authenticity, but I can tell you this, that I go, man, I wish that fucking sizzle reel for that new course we're doing was done.
Yeah.
But we still got to write it, we still got to film it, we still got to produce it, we still got to, and that's what Shawn's saying. Everybody is like, it's normal to want to have the black belt or have the handstand or be able to lift that or do that movement or get your beach body on or whatever the hell. But all of it is fucking work.
Yeah, it is all work. And you got to be disciplined. You got to be disciplined about the work. And if you really want to get somewhere, it's not about hacks. It's about being really disciplined, about being really honest with what you want and why you want it, right? I had a good one at jiu-jitsu this morning that I'll share. And if the guy from jiu-jitsu ends up listening, it'll be funny. He'll laugh about it. So there's a guy who, he's really good, and he comes to the morning class, and he's really good in particular at two techniques: a baseball bat choke and an arm bar from the guard. I mean, he's as fast as anybody I've ever seen put them on, and if you mess up at all with him, he's going to catch you in one of them and probably put you to sleep, especially with the choke. And so I got back from Hong Kong. We rolled. He got me twice. And my ego is just like, fucker, And then I leave, a 5-minute roll. He tapped me twice. I was like, man, that should not happen, And I was annoyed. And then I was, being honest, going, you shouldn't be annoyed. That's so stupid. But you are annoyed. And you want to get him, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, I want to get him. And now we're going to go think about this for 4 or 5 days and make sure we get him. It's like, yeah, but you really got to get your head out of your ass. That's the wrong way to think about it. And that's, not just being honest about it. Right. It's like, if I'm honest, it's like, yeah, I just want to beat him. I don't like getting beat, even though, yes, of course, I know you should tap every class and that's grow. But yeah, I know that as a teacher, but Shawn as a student and Shawn with an ego didn't like that. Right.
Right.
So then I was thinking about it, and I was like, why did he get me? And maybe I needed to learn a defense for this. And I was like, nah, I don't need to study the technique. I actually don't need to learn a defense for that. The problem was he shouldn't have gotten even close to any of those things because I just wasn't sharp on my basics. Why was he grabbing me in the first place? I shouldn't have let his hand near my neck. He should have never got there. So it's like, okay, this isn't about him. This is about me. I made technical mistakes. So it's me against the technical mistakes. He's not even in the equation at all. I need to start thinking about it this way. And he's there, thankfully, and he gives me a chance to, clean up my technical mistakes. So somewhere in the middle of the week, I stopped thinking about him. And I started thinking about, I have to stop these technical mistakes. And so I'm taking the time in my training, and that's how you get better. It's not from some fancy move. I didn't look up on Google how to beat the clock choke. Or I didn't, go on YouTube and what's a good defense for an armbar. I know armbar defenses. That wasn't the issue. The issue was he shouldn't have got that bar. So I'm like, okay, I've got to really concentrate on my posture. Everything I know from my posture, if posture is good in the guard, there's no armbar. There's nothing. So I'm going to posture this, that. And I know he's going to come hard when we roll again because he just beat me. So he's going to be super confident. He's going to be like, oh, it's Shawn. I'm going to kick his ass again. But it's not about him. It's just about me doing my basics properly, and everything else will take care of itself. So we rolled this morning, and I'm happy to say that I improved in my basics. And I managed to avoid these attacks, and everything worked out very well for me in the end. But when it comes to learning, it comes to things like that, you have to be honest. I was even honest with myself. I was like, I just want to get him because I want to get him. And look, right. I tapped him this morning, and I was thrilled because there's always that part of you there. And it's the same thing when you're like, you want to learn this quick, you want to do this, you want to do that. It's fine as long as there's goals that are serving you. But I realized some point during the week, I'm like, think about this guy, who I like, by the way. He's really good. I appreciate that he's there and making me better. It's not about him. I have to be honest. It's like, man, this is a whole bunch of crazy ego shit going on in your head. You need to, pull it together and reframe it. And so it's about doing that kind of work, being honest like that. Same thing in your training. It's no matter what it is, if it's kettlebells, if it's handstands, and you're racing to get something, it's like, I got to get a one arm. I'm killing myself to get a one arm handstand. What do you think's going to happen when you get a one arm handstand? Like all of a sudden women are going to be throwing their clothes at you and they're like, oh my God, he can do a one-arm handstand. It's like, I could fill rooms with people I know that can do one-arm handstands. It's,
right.
Depending on where you hang out, that's not that impressive a feat anymore. Just depends on your crowd of friends. So, it's about going through the process, and it's about really being honest with yourself and about what you want and what you're willing to do to get what you want. Because, you talk about being an entrepreneur, and I know like you've gone through all these different things to start your business and to start your company. I mentioned it earlier. You started like myself when there was, no internet to try and make your name. You had to really grind it out and, you grind your knuckles to the bone to get somebody to pay attention to you. When I started, and the first order of kettlebells that I brought to Canada, I had a choice. I buy kettlebells, a weight that no one has heard of and no one wants to buy, or I pay my heating bill. And so I made a completely irrational decision to buy 50 16-kilo kettlebells instead of paying my heating bill. And you're from Montreal, so you know what that means. When you when you shut heat off in Montreal, it's bad, especially in the winter. So that took a certain amount of resolve and a certain amount of thinking about what I really wanted to do, and having the determination to do that. And that's the difference, I think. Like, people nowadays, when they say, oh, I want this, I want that, so I'm going to train here, I'm going to train there, I'm training with this guy, I'm training with that girl. How bad do you really want the thing, and how much work have you really put into looking to see who should be taking you there and who should be helping you? And what do you know about them? It's like, I want to learn self-defense. I said, where are you going? There's a martial arts school around the corner. I figured I'd take a couple classes. Do they know anything about self-defense? I think so. How do you know? You're going to have to know a little bit about self-defense before you get somebody to teach you about self-defense. You're going to at least have to do a little research.
It's tricky. And I really had no intentions of discussing this or even opening up that can of worms. But, you can find let me backtrack on that. Mm-hmm. What people think is self-defense has been, influenced by action films, by martial art magazines, and for decades. And so through osmosis and conditioning and education, everyone thinks everything is self-defense. And people confuse martial arts with actual self-defense, even though they share some moves and they share the elements of GPP. You need to have power and speed and timing and coordination. And so, you can, I was using the example of Masayama, who reputedly, killed the bull with a reverse punch. And I go, how many of you heard about that? People back in the days like, yeah. And I go, like, did you know that bull was and this is just, again, information that I've gathered. I never spoke to somebody directly or anyone that was there, but my understanding was the bull was slated for slaughter. This wasn't inhumane. The bull was sedated and it was being held by two people. And I go, so like, think about that. Here's a guy who had two big guys, and Oyama was big, like wrestler size, right? Yeah. Big fucking hands, his hands bigger than our heads. And the bull was drugged and it was being held, and then he hit it. I mean, could you imagine defending yourself against somebody that was drugged and being held? Like everybody could win that fight. And so people are like, they're going, Blauer's right. I go, but wait a minute. I still don't want to fight a guy that can kill a bull with a punch. In other words, I could recognize the astounding feat of strength. Yeah. But so people would look at that and look at him and look at his system and go, wow, if you can kill a bull with a reverse punch, you must be able to teach self-defense. And they're not, and it may be true, but the feat and the demo has nothing to do with self-defense.
Yeah, you gotta take the thing for what it really is, and you gotta think about it and see it for what it is, right? Like, we might at the beginning of a jiu-jitsu class, we might do, a good headlock defense or a good takedown or a good whatever, and that thing could work really well, but it's a tool that you may or may not be able to access because of a lot of other things that weren't covered in class.
Right.
So it's a move that may be applicable in self-defense, but it's not a self-defense class. Right. It's just a movement happened, And
that's the hardest thing. And we've spent enough time talking about it, and I've done some private stuff for you and your community to understand that when you start to understand how the brain learns, and especially the latest stuff, which is to me just, doesn't change what I teach, but that white paper level of like, hey, this is neuroscience now, man. Mm-hmm. That if you practice how to get out of a headlock 10,000 times, you're actually practicing putting yourself in a headlock 10,001 times. Your body's pre-contact cue, your mental blueprint for what a fight looks like, also includes letting somebody put you in a headlock. Yeah, that could be really dangerous depending on what's the scenario and who's putting that headlock on. And that's the thing, that there's so much more to self-defense than just the movements.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, having great movements and great technical skill is awesome. That's a it's a good thing, but it's not the only thing. You know, it's the same thing with anything. You can know all the techniques with a kettlebell, with maces and Indian clubs. You can have all these kind of different things. How you put things together, how you cook them overall in your training, your overall kind of concepts, your overall guiding principles. What's shaping the training? What's the reason for it? How is it being balanced out? You know, these are the things that really are going to be transformative. They're going to be the difference between, oh yeah, you looked good in your 20s and now you're, you know, getting broken and you're hurt and you're this and you're that later on. So there's a lot of things that go into putting together, let's say, a fitness system. There's a lot of things that go into a martial art or into self-defense. And people have to see the different elements and try to imagine a big picture, which of course is hard as a newbie for anything. You don't have that kind of, you know, experience. So it's difficult. So that again comes right back. You got to find a good trainer,
research,
a good coach, good teacher. You have at least the capacity to do research, to find the best person to kind of shed some light on these things. So you're not completely in the dark, you know, but take your time. There's no rush. Find yourself someone who's really good, and then you'll get the most out of your training, hopefully for a lifetime, which is awesome.
Right. Great points. Great points. Dude, this has been good. I'm going to have you back on the show again. Because you're just fun, and you carry the conversation. You talk without my help. In fact, I went and did laundry, and actually, I was outside taking the sun for about 15 minutes, and came back in. You were still talking, so it's amazing having guests like you on the show. How can, and I just want to add one thing in all seriousness.
Yeah,
you know, Shawn's message about doing the research. And finding out, you know, there's sometimes you look at an ad or a promo or, you know, some letter online, and it's so cheesy. I like, while I'm reading and going, who the fuck would actually click buy now at the end of reading this? It's insane. And then you see that ad next week and the week after and the week after. And what that tells you is people are actually clicking it because nobody could keep advertising. And so the reality is, and it's a hard pill to swallow for the business people maybe listening to this, but there is an audience for everybody, and you can't teach everybody. What you want are the students that resonate with your philosophy and your personality, where you are in your life right now, and vice versa.
Exactly.
So now we have a cool thing happening.
And have a little healthy skepticism. Like you said, you see those ads. I'll tell you something funny. And I saw an ad for a jiu-jitsu online tutorial. And it was just like you said, it was cheesy, kind of like the standard copy that, you know, some marketing guy wrote, right?
Right.
And I was just like, bullshit. You know, but it kept popping up. And the thing that got me was, it was one of Hickson's students. It was Henry, right? Henry Akins. And I was just like, well, black belt under Hickson, and Hickson at that point didn't have any videos out. So it's like, it's the only chance to kind of see something, but this seems so stupid. This gotta be horrible, you know, it's gotta be horrible. But so that skeptical part of me was there, but the researcher was there. And the researcher said, you know what? It's $47 for one module, right? It's like you went out with your girlfriend, you know, for dinner, and not your kind of dinner, Tony. I've seen your Instagram feed, but I mean like my kind of dinner.
Like an appetizer at one of my restaurants.
Like $47. It's not like going for dinner with you. Dinner with you is a whole other thing. That's like my rent. So, you know, it's a mortgage payment going for dinner with Tony, by the way. So, no, maybe not that bad. So anyways, I got it, you know, $47. I get access. I started looking at the videos. I watched the first video. It's like complete opposite of some of the things that I was taught. I was like, huh? How could this be true?
Right.
But I watched a few more videos. I was like, okay, I went to jiu-jitsu. I tried some of these moves. They worked. The ideas were working, and it was a lot of concept-based things. And the concepts were very interesting. So as soon as I went, I had a trip scheduled for LA. I went to meet this guy. It's like, I got to meet this guy. I got to know more about this, you know? And I think that's the great thing that can happen from the internet if, you know, if you approach it with that kind of mindset, right?
And so the message there, guys, was like where what I implied was like, hey, if it's shitty copy and it appeals to you, then you must have a shitty brain, and so you'll buy that. Where what Shawn said is he looked at the skeptic in him goes, you know, this is really cheesy, but he's mentioning the name Hickson here, and Hickson's kind of a legend. Do a little bit more research, and where he couldn't necessarily find stuff online, he went for $47 let me see, and found out, and Henry's pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible, man. He's unbelievable. We've since become friends, and that's awesome. But that's the same thing. I see guys, they'll post on something you write, and they're like, "Oh, blower, that's bullshit." Blah blah blah. It's like, well, look, you're looking at a 2-second clip. What do you know? I knew that you have the right to go, "That's bullshit." I mean, everybody has opinion. I see things, and I have an opinion right away. Just like I saw that ad, and I'm like, bullshit.
Right.
But once you say bullshit, pause for a second, and go, if I saw something from you and I didn't know who you were, I'd be like, okay. It looks like crap to me, let's say, but this guy's been around forever. Everybody's saying he pioneered all these things. Apparently, he works with all these different military units. He works with all these law enforcement guys. He's been doing this. He's got all these people in these seminars. Okay, so either I'm right, and he's a complete moron, and nobody in the world sees that he's a dipshit and just thinks he knows what he's doing, or maybe, just maybe, I'm wrong, and there's something here. I owe it to myself, if I'm interested in this topic at all, and I'm not just, pausing and stopping by on the internet to write some bullshit remark because I have nothing else in my life. But I owe it to myself if I'm really like, the guys who write, "Yeah, blower, I've been doing martial arts for 35 years, man, and I'm super into self-defense." Well, if you're really that into it and you're really this, obsessed with it, and this is such a priority for you, you should probably get the cheapest thing you can get, right? And take a look and really watch it. And if you really watch it and you're really into the subject, you're going to understand why, people are asking you to come and teach. They're going to understand why you've been around for so long. So that's the thing. It's fine to call bullshit, but if you're really that interested, go take a look at it. And then see if you want to call bullshit. Go to a seminar, go to something, check out something. You got things online now. People can check it out. They could see. They don't have to just call bullshit. They can call bullshit and then go have an educated comment by having been exposed to it.
We live in a strange times and interesting phase in our evolution with the world and cry boxes and entitlement and all the whiny stuff, but none of that matters if you can't do a one-arm handstand anyhow. Exactly. So, right. But in all seriousness, Shawn, this has been fun. This has been educational. I cannot wait to see what the feedback is like, and we will have you on again because you're my friend, and it was fun. And before we sign off, there's something, honestly, I got to tell you something. Mm-hmm. I was at dinner the other night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was thinking, I looked over at Jess and I said, Shawn can't afford to eat here. So we tagged you in a photo, but that was all.
That's really nice. I want you to know 2 things. I want your listeners to know that they can go to agatsu.com, because you prick, you weren't going to wrap up with that. So they can go to agatsu.com, and that's where they can find me. Or they can go to Agatsu, AGATSU, fitness, and that's on Instagram. They can find me there, and they can see about seminars and all the different things that we're doing around the world. Especially we have a movement event coming up in Bali in February. It's already half full, and it's myself teaching. It's kind of like, when you do your summits every year. Right. So this is for people that want to, especially we're going to do a lot of like raw power things. It's going to be a lot of body weight training. So like partner, hand bouncing, acro, like double planche, that kind of cool stuff.
I'm checking my email now. I don't see my invite to.
Oh, your invite. Yeah. Well, I can't afford you because I know the kind of,
restaurants.
I've seen your sushi bill. So I know that I couldn't possibly give you enough money to come and teach in one of these, but we can discuss that at a later date as well.
Before we sign off, what's the origin of Agatsu?
Well, the word comes from, it's a Japanese word. It comes from something the founder of Aikido, Moriya Yusuba, O-sensei said. And the full thing is Masakatsu Agatsu, which means true mastery is self-mastery. It also means beginner's mind. Originally, my company started out as a martial arts company, and that was my way kind of to remind myself that no matter how much I thought I knew, to always have a beginner's mind. And that carried from the martial arts over to fitness. I may know a couple of interesting things, but I'm always a student first. And, occasionally I'm a teacher, and I'm lucky that people ask me to teach around the world, but I really am a student. So I'm always open to new things. I'm always open to changing. I will scrap everything that I, currently do today if somebody can show me a better way to do it tomorrow. So I'm try to stay open, and it's embedded right into the name. And also the true mastery of self-mastery, I think it's a great thing for people to think of in terms of martial arts, but also in terms of anything. It's really about, the training is really about yourself and what it brings to you. Not just physically. I mean, the physical stuff is nice, but frankly, I've never been that interested in it. It's about the mental aspect of training and what it brings to you. It strengthens the mind. It's the easiest way for us to strengthen the mind. Working on your mind is hard. Just going directly at the mind is a very difficult thing for people to do. That's why we have this physical stuff. The physical stuff is the avenue to getting to the mental stuff. And the mental stuff, you really can train your whole life, and that's going to bring you the most. And that's what we're going to talk about on the next episode when you bring me back. See what I did there? You're a little bit in shock, right? A little bit in awe.
And just I was actually out of the room finishing my laundry. I was just folding my laundry. What were you saying?
Oh, play this back after, because you're going to realize it was incredible. The segue, the way I brought it back around, the whole thing is unbelievable. It's the best guest you've ever had. That's what they'll say. That's what it's
amazing. You just actually signed a multi-year contract with me on the podcast, didn't you?
That's amazing. I want to be paid in U.S. funds, please, by the way.
Okay. Can I give you gift certificates to a certain restaurant? Right.
No.
Dude,
I have bills, man. I can't be paid.
I dig it. You're still playing that heating bill for your first kettlebell order. Shawn,
right. I still big.
This was fun. And despite the banter, there was some deep shit in there, and I hope that everyone listening to this got some stuff. Shawn is legit. Go check him out online. Follow him on Instagram, and get to one of his courses. And dude, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day, and say hello to your lovely better half. And of course, that little dog is so cute. And we will see you on a future episode.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Peace out, man.